The Lost Book of Enki, Tablet 2. Synopsis of the second tablet. Alelu's flight in a nuclear-armed spacecraft. He sets his course to Ki, the seventh planet, Earth. Why he expects to find gold on Earth. The solar system's cosmogony, Tiamat's water and gold. The appearance of Nibiru from outer space. The celestial battle and Tiamat's breakup. Earth, half of Tiamat inherits her waters and gold. Kingu, Tiamat's main satellite, becomes the moon of Earth. Nibiru is destined to forever orbit the sun. Alelu's arrival and landing on Earth. Alelu discovering gold holds Nibiru's fate in his hands. The second tablet. To snow-hued Earth, Alelu set his course, but secret from the beginning, he chose his destination. To regions forbidden, Alelu made his way. No one has gone there before. No one at the hammered bracelet a crossing had attempted. A secret from the beginning, Alelu's course has determined. The fate of Nibiru in his hands it placed, by a scheme his kingship to make universal. On Nibiru, exile was certain. There death itself he was chancing. In his scheme, risk was in the journey. Eternal glory of success was the reward. Riding like an eagle, Alelu the heavens scanned. Below Nibiru was a ball and a voidings hanging. Alluring was its figure, its radiance emblazoned the surrounding heavens. Its measure was enormous, its belchings fire blazed forth. Its life-sustaining envelope, its hue of redness was like a sea churning. In its midst, the breach was distant, like a darkened moon. He looked down again, the wide breach turned into a small tub. He looked again, Nibiru's great ball turned into a small fruit. The next time he looked in the wide, dark sea, Nibiru disappeared. Remorse, the heart of Alelu's grasp, fear held him in his hand. Decision to hesitation turned. To halt in his tracks, Alelu considered. Then from audacity to decision he returned. 100 leagues, 1,000 leagues, the chariot was coursing. 10,000 leagues, the chariot was journeying. In the wide heavens, darkness was the darkest. In the faraway distant stars, their eyes were blinking. More leagues Alelu traveled. Then a sight of great joy met his gaze. An expanse of the heavens, a celestial embassy was him greeting. Little Gaga, the one who shows the way, by his circuit Alelu was greeting. To him a welcome extending. With a leaning gait, before and after the celestial onto, it was destined to travel. To face forward, to face backward. With two facings was it endowed. Its appearance as first to greet Alelu as a good omen he had once considered. By the celestial gods he is welcomed. So was his understanding. In his chariot, Alelu followed Gaga's path to the second god of the heavens it was directing. Soon Celestian onto its, named by King Anshar, was given. In the deep darkness was looming. Blue as pure waters was her hue. Of the upper waters she was the commencement. Alelu by the sight's beauty was enchanted. To course at a distance he continued. In the far beyond, Antu's spouse began to shimmer. By sides, Antu's the equal. As his spouse's double, by a greenish blueness was undistinguished. A dazzling host encircled it on its side. With firm grounds they were provided. To the two celestial, Alelu bade a fond farewell. The path of Gaga still discerning. The way it was showing to its olden master, of whom it was once the counsel to Anshar, the foremost prince of the heavens, the course was a turning. By the speeding chariot, Alelu, the ensnaring pull of Anshar could tell. With bright rings of dazzling colors, the chariot it was enchanting. His gaze, Alelu, to one side quickly turned. That which shows the way, with might he diverted. A sight most awesome then to him appeared. In the faraway heavens, a family's bright star he discerned. A sight most frightening, the revelation followed. A giant monster in its destiny moving upon the sun, a darkening cast. Kishar, its creator, swallowed. Frightening was the occurrence, and evil omen Alelu indeed thought. The giant Kishar, foremost of the firm planets, its size was overwhelming. Swirling storms obscured its face. Colored spots they moved about. A host beyond counting, some quickly, some slowly, the celestial god encircled. Troublesome were their ways back and forth they were surging. Kishar itself a spell was casting, divine lightnings it was thrusting. As Alelu looked on, his course became upset. His direction was distracted. His doings became confused. Then the deepest darkening began to depart. Kishar on his destiny continued to circuit, slowly moving its veil from the shining sun. It lifted, the one from the beginning came fully into view. Joy in Alelu's heart was not long lasting. Beyond the fifth planet, the utmost danger was lurking. So indeed he knew. The hammered bracelet ahead was raining. To demolish it was awaiting. A rocks and boulders was it together hammered. Like orphans with no mother, they banded together. Surging back and forth, a bygone destiny they followed. Their doings were loathsome. Troubling were their ways. Nibiru's probing chariots like preying lions they devoured. The precious gold needed for surviving they refused to dislodge. The chariot of Alelu toward the hammer bracelet was headlong moving, the ferocious boulders in close combat to boldly face. Alelu, the firestones in his chariot more strongly stirred up. That which shows the way with steady hands he directed. The ominous boulders against the chariot charged forward, like an enemy in battle attacking. Toward them Alelu, a death-dealing missile from the chariot let loose. Then another and another against the enemy, the terror weapons he thrust. As frightened warriors, the boulders turned back a path for Alelu, granting like by a spell the hammer bracelet a doorway to the king had opened. In the dark deepness of Laylu, the heavens could clearly see. By the bracelet's ferocity, he was not defeated. His mission was not ended. In the distance, the sun's fiery ball, its brilliance was sending forth, welcoming rays towards the Laylu it was emitting. Before it, a red-brown planet on a circuit was coursing. The sixth in the count of celestial gods it was. Laylu could but glimpse it. On its destined course from Laylu's path, it was quickly moving. Then snow-hued Earth appeared, the seventh in its celestial count. Toward the planet Alelu set his course to a destination most inviting. Smaller than Nibiru was its alluring broad, weaker than Nibiru's was its attracting net. Its atmosphere thinner than Nibiru's was, clouds were within it swirling. Below the Earth to three regions was divided, snow white at the top and on the bottom blue and brown in between. Deftly Alelu spread the chariot to resting wings around the Earth's ball to circle. In the middle region, dry lands and watery oceans he could discern. The beam that penetrates downward he directed. Earth's innards to detect. I have attained it, ecstatically he shouted. Gold, much gold, the beam has indicated. It was beneath the dark-hued region in the waters it was too. With pounding heart, Alelu a decision was contemplating. Shall he on the dry land his chariots bring down, perchance to crash and die? Shall he to the waters his course direct to perchance into oblivion sink? Which way shall he survive? Will he the treasure gold discover? In the eagle's seat, Alelu was not stirring. To fate hands the chariot he entrusted. Fully caught in Earth's attracting net, the chariot was moving faster. Its spread wings became aglow. Earth's atmosphere like an oven was. Then the chariot shook, emitting a mortifying thunder. With abruptness, the chariot crashed, with their suddenness altogether stopping. Senseless from the shaking, stunning by the crash, Alelu was without moving. Then he opened his eyes and knew he was among the living. At the planet of gold he victoriously arrived. Now this is the account of the earth and its gold. It is an account of the beginning and how the celestial gods created were. In the beginning, when in the above the gods and the heavens had not been called into being, and in the below key the firm ground had not yet been named, alone in the void there existed Apsu, their primordial begettal. In the heights of the above the celestial gods had not yet been created. In the waters of the below, the celestial gods had not yet appeared. Above and below, the gods had not yet been formed. Destinies were not yet decreed. No reed had yet been formed. No marshal had appeared. Alone did Apsu reign in the void. Then by his winds the primordial waters were mingled. A divine and artful spell Apsu upon the water cast. On the void's deep he poured a sound sleep. Tiamat, the mother of all, as a spouse for himself he fashioned. A celestial mother, a watery beauty she was indeed. Beside him, Apsu, little Mumu, then brought forth. As his messenger, he him appointed, a gift for Tiamat to present. A gift resplendent to his spouse, Apsu granted. A shining metal, the everlasting gold for her alone to possess. Then it was that the two their waters mingled, divine children between them to bring forth. Male and female were the celestials created. Lamu and Lahamu by names they were called. In the below did Apsu and Tiamat make them an abode. Before then had grown in age and in stature in the waters of the above Anshar and Kishar were formed. Surpassing their brothers in size they were. As a celestial couple the two were fashioned. A son An in the distant heavens was their heir. Then Antu to be his spouse. As An's equal was brought forth as a boundary of the upper waters their abode was made. Thus were three heavenly couples below and above in the depths created. By names they were called the family of Apsu with Mumu and Tiamat they formed. At that time Nibiru had not yet been seen, the earth was not yet called into being. Mingled were the heavenly waters, by hammer bracelet they were not yet separated. At that time circuits were not yet fully fashioned, the destinies of the gods were not yet firmly decreed. The celestial kinfolk banded together, erratic were their ways. Their ways to Apsu was very loathsome. Tiamat, getting no rest, was aggrieved and raged. A throng to march by her side she formed. A growling, raging host against the sons of Apsu she brought forth. With 11 of this kind she brought forth. She made the firstborn Kingu chief among them. When the celestial gods of this did hear, for counsel they rallied. Kingu she has elevated to rank as and on command to him she gave. To each other they said, a tablet of destiny to his chest she had attached, his own circuit to acquire. To battle against the gods, her offspring Kingu she instructed. Who shall stand up to Tiamat, the gods asked each other. None in their circuit stepped forward, none a weapon for battle would bear. At that time, in the heart of the deep, a god was engendered. In a chamber of fates, a place of destinies was he born. By an artful creator was he fashioned. The son of his own son he was. From the deep where he was engendered, the god from his family, and a rushing departed. A gift as his creator, the seed of life, with him away he carried. To the void he set his course, a new destiny he was seeking. Glimpsed the wandering celestial was it ever watchful onto. Alone was his figure, a radiance he was beaming. Lordly was his gait, exceedingly great was his course. Of all the gods he was the loftiest, surpassing theirs his circuit was. The first to glimpse him was Antu. Her breast by child never sucked. Come, be my son, she called to him. Let me your mother become. She cast her net and made him welcome, made his course for the purpose suited. Her words filled the newcomer's heart with pride. The one who would nurse him made him haughty. His head to double sides grew larger. Full members at his sides he sprouted. He moved his lips in acceptance. A godly fire from them blazed forth. Toward On to his course he turned his face to On soon to show. When On saw him, my son, with exultation he shouted. To leadership you shall be consigned. A host by your side will be your servants. Let Nibiru be your name, as crossing forever known. He bowed to Nibiru, turning his face at Nibiru's passage. He spread his net for Nibiru, 4 servants he brought forth. His host by his side to be the south wind, the north wind, the fast wind, the west wind. With joyful heart, on to Anshar his forebear, the rival of Nibiru announced. Anshar, upon this hearing, Gaga, who was by his side as an emissary, sent forth words of wisdom to An deliver. A task to Nibiru to sign, he charged Gaga to give voice to what was in his heart. To An thus say, Tiamat, she who bore us, now detests us. She has set up a warring host. She is fierce with rage against the gods, her children. 11 warriors marched by her side. Kingu among them she elevated. A destiny to his chest she attached without right. No god among us against her venom can stand up. Her host in us all has far established. Let Nibiru become our avenger. Let him vanquish Tiamat. Let him save our lives. For him decree of fate. Let him go forth and face our mighty foe. To An, Gaga departed, he bowed before him, the words of Anshar he repeated, and to Nibiru his forebear's words repeated. Gaga's message to him he revealed, to the words Nibiru with wonder listened, of the mother who would her children devour with fascination he heard. His heart without saying to set out against Tiamat, him already prompted. He opened his mouth to An and Gaga, he thus said, If indeed I am to vanquish Tiamat, your lives to save, convene the gods to assembly, my destiny proclaimed supreme. Let all the gods agree in council to make me the leader, bow to my command. When Lamu and Lahamu heard this, they cried out with anguish. Strange was the man, its meaning cannot be fathomed, thus they said. The gods who decreed the fates with each other consulted. To make Nibiru their avenger they all agreed. To him an exalted fate decreed. From this day on unchallengeable shall be your commandments. To him they said, No one among us gods shall transgress your bounds. Go Nibiru, be our avenger. They fashioned for him a princely circuit toward Tiamat to proceed. They gave Nibiru blessings. They gave Nibiru awesome weapons. Anshar, 3 more winds of Nibiru brought forth. The evil wind, the whirlwind, the matchless wind. Kishar with a blazing flame filled his body. A net to enfold Tiamat therein. Thus, ready for battle, Nibiru toward Tiamat directly set his course. Now, this is the account of the celestial battle and how the earth led come to be, and of Nibiru's destiny. The Lord went forth, his fated course he followed. Toward the raging Tiamat he set his face, a spell with his lips he uttered. As a cloak for protection he the pulsar and the emitter put on. With a fearsome radiance his head was crowned. On his right he posted the smiter, on his left the repeller. He placed the 7 winds he holds, hosts of helpers, like storm he sent forth. Toward the raging Tiamat he was rushing, clamoring for battle. Gods thronged about him. Then from his path they departed. To scan Tiamat, her helpers alone he was advancing. The scheme of Kingu, her host, commander, to conceive. When he saw valiant Kingu, blurred became his vision. As he gazed upon the monsters, his direction was distracted. His course became set, his doings were confused. Tiamat's band tightly her encircled. With terror they trembled. Tiamat to her roots gave a shudder. A mighty roar she emitted. On Nibiru she cast a spell, engulfed him with her charms. The issue between them was joined. The battle was unavoided. Face to face they came. Tiamat and Nibiru against each other they were advancing. They for battle approached. They pressed on for single combat. The Lord spread his net to compass her. He cast it. With fury, Tiamat cried out. Like one possessed, she lost her senses. The evil wind which had been behind him, Nibiru drove forward in her face. He let it loose. She opened her mouth, the evil wind to swallow, but could not close her lips. The evil wind charged her belly into her innards and made its way. Her innards were howling. Her body was distended. Her mouth was open wide. Through the opening, Nibiru shot a brilliant arrow, a lightning most divine. It pierced her innards, her belly it tore apart. It tore into her womb. It split apart her heart. Having thus subdued her, her life breath he extinguished, the lifeless body Nibiru surveyed. Like a slaughtered carcass Tiamat now was. Beside their lifeless mistress, her 11 helpers trembled with terror. In Nibiru's net they were captured. Unable they were to flee. Kingu, who by Tiamat was made the host chief, was among them. The Lord put him in fetters. To his lifeless mistress he bound him. He wrested from Kingu the tablets of destinies, unrightly to him given, stamped it with his own seal, fastened the destiny to his own chest. The others of Tiamat's band as captives he bound in his circuit, he then them snared. He trampled them underfoot, cut them up to pieces, he bound them all to his circuit. To turn around he made them, backward to course. From the place of the battle Nibiru then departed to the gods who had appointed the victory to announce. He made his circuit about Apsu to Kishon Ansharlai journey. Gaga came out to greet him as a herald to the others he then journeyed. Beyond on and on to Nibiru to the abode in the deep proceeded. The fate of lifeless Tiamat and of Kingu he then considered. To Tiamat whom he had subdued, the Lord Nibiru then returned. He made his way to her, paused to view her lifeless body, to artfully divide the monster in his heart Lie was planning. Then as the muscle into two parts he split her, her chest from her lower parts he separated. Her inner channels he cut apart, her golden veins he beheld with wonder. Trotting upon her hinder part, the Lord her upper part completely severed. The north wind his helper from his side he summoned. To thrust away the severed head the wind he commanded, in the void to place it. Nibiru wind up upon Tiamat, then hovered, sweeping upon her gushing waters. Nibiru shot a lightning to north wind, he gave a signal, and it brings with Tiamat's upper part to a region unknown carried. With her the bound Kingu was also exiled, of the severed part a companion to be. The hinder part's fate Nibiru then considered, as an everlasting trophy of the battle he wished it to be, a constant reminder in the heavens, the place of the battle to enshrine. With his mace the hinder part he smashed into bits and pieces, then strung them together as a band to form a hammered bracelet. Locking them together as a watchman, he stationed them a firmament to divide the waters from the waters. The upper waters above the firmament from the waters below it he separated. Artful works Nibiru thus fashioned. The Lord then crossed the heavens to survey the regions. From Apsu's quarters to the abode of Gaga he measured the dimensions. The edge of the deep Nibiru then examined. Toward his birthplace he cast his gaze. He paused and hesitated. Then to the firmament, the place of the battle, slowly he returned. Passing in Apsu's region of the sun's missing spouse, he thought with remorse. He gazed upon Tiamat's wounded half. To her upper part he gave attention. The waters of life, her bounty, from the wounds were still pouring. Her golden veins, Apsu's rays were reflecting. The seed of life, his creator's legacy, Nibiru then remembered. When he trod on Tiamat, when he split her asunder, to her the seed he surely imparted. He addressed words to Apsu, to him thus saying, with your warming rays to the wounds give healing. Let the broken part new life be given. In your family as a daughter to be, let the waters to one place be gathered. Let firm land appear. By firm land let her be called Ki, henceforth her name to be. Apsu to the words of Nibiru gave heed. Let the earth join my family, Ki, firm land of the below. Let earth her name henceforth be. By her turning let there day and night be. In the days my healing rays to her I shall provide. Let Kingu be a creature of the night to shine at night. I shall appoint him earth's companion, the moon forever to be. Nibiru, the words of Apsu with satisfaction heard. He crossed the heavens and surveyed the region. To the gods who had him elevated he granted permanent stations. Their circuits he destined that none shall transgress nor fall short of each other. He strengthened the heavenly locks, gates on both sides he established. An outermost abode he chose for himself. Beyond Gaga were its dimensions. The great circuit to be his destiny he beseeched Apsu for him to decree. All the gods spoke up from their stations. Let Nibiru's sovereignty be surpassing. Most radiant of the gods he is. Let him truly the son of the sun be. From his quarter Apsu gave his blessing. Nibiru shall hold the crossing of heaven and earth. Crossing shall be his name. The gods shall cross over neither above nor below. He shall hold the central position. The shepherd of the gods he shall be. A shar shall be his circuit, that his destiny will forever be. Now this is the account of how the olden times began. and of the era that in the annals the golden era by name was known, and how from the Bureau to Earth the mission went the goal to obtain. The escape of Alelu from the Bureau was its beginning. With great understanding was Alelu endowed, much knowledge he by learning acquired. By his forefather Anshargal of the heavens and the circuits much knowledge were amassed. By Anshar was knowledge greatly augmented. Of that Alelu made much learning. With the sages he discoursed, sovereigns and commanders he consulted. Thus was knowledge of the beginning ascertained. Thus did Alelu this knowledge possess. The gold in the hammered bracelet was the confirmation. The gold in the hammered bracelet of gold in Tiamat's upper half was the indication. As the planet of gold, Alelu victoriously arrived, his chariot with the thunder crashing. With a beam he scanned the place, his whereabouts to discover. His chariot on dry land descended. At the edge of extended marshes it landed. He put on an eagle's helmet, he put on a fish's suit. The chariot's hatch he opened. At the open hatch he stopped to wonder. Dark-hued was the ground, blue-white were the skies. No sound there teased. There was no one to bid him welcome. Alone on an alien planet he stood, perchance from the bureau forever exiled. To the ground himself he lowered. On the dark-hued soil he stepped. There were hills in the distance, nearby much vegetation there was. Ahead of him there were marshes, and to the marsh he stepped. By the water's coolness he shuddered. Back to the dry ground he stepped. Alone on an alien planet he stood. With thoughts he was possessed, of spouse and offspring with longing he remembered. Was he forever from the bureau exiled? Of that again and again he wondered. To the chariot he soon returned, with food and drink to be sustained. Then deep sleep him overcame, a powerful slumber. How long he slept he could not remember. What awakened him he could not tell. A brightness there was outside, a brilliance of Nibiru unseen. A pole from the chariot he extended, with a tester it was equipped. It breathed the planet's air, compatibility it indicated. The chariot's hatch he opened. At the open hatch he took a breath. Another breath he took, then another and another. The air of key indeed compatible was. Alelu clapped his hands, a song of joy he was singing. Without an eagle's helmet, without a fish's suit, to the ground himself he lowered. The brightness outside was blinding, the rays of the sun were overpowering. Into the chariot he returned, a mask for the eyes he donned. He picked up the carried weapon, he picked up the handy sampler. To the ground himself lie lowered. On a dark-hued soil he stepped. He made his way toward the marshes. Dark greenish were the waters. By the marsh's edge there were pebbles. Alelu picked a pebble into the marsh he thrust it. In the marsh a moving his eyes glimpsed. The waters with fishes were filled. Into the marsh's sampler he lowered, the murky waters to consider, for drinking the water was not fit. Alelu greatly disappointing. He turned away from the marshes in the direction of the hills he want. He made his way through vegetation, bushes to trees gave way. The place was like an orchard, the trees with fruits were laden. By their sweet smell and taste, Alelu picked the fruit, in his mouth he put it. Sweet was the smell, sweeter the taste was. Alelu greatly it delighted. Away from the sun rays, Alelu was walking toward the hills. He set his direction. Among the trees, a wetness on his feet, he sensed a sign of close-by waters. In the direction of the wetness, he set his course. In the midst of the forest, there was a pond, a pool of silent waters. Into the pond, a sampler he lowered, for drinking the water was good. Alelu laughed, and unstopping laughter seized him. The air was good, the water for drinking was fit, there was fruit, there were fishes. With eagerness Alelu bent down, together his hands he cupped water to his mouth he brought. A coolness did the water have, a taste from Nibiru's water different. Once more he drank, then with fright he asunder jumped. A hissing sound he could hear, a slithering body by the poolside was moving. His carried weapon he seized, a blast of its ray toward the hissing that he directed. The moving stopped, the hissing was ended. To examine the danger, Alelu stepped forward. The slithered body lay still. There was a creature, a sight most strange. Like a rope its long body was, without hands or feet was the body. Fierce eyes were in its small head. Out of its mouth a long tongue was sticking. A sight of Nibiru never beheld it was, a creature of another world. Was it the orchid's guardian? Alelu by himself pondered. Was it the water's master himself, he asked? In his carried flask he some water collected. With alertness to the chariot he made his way. The sweet fruits he also picked, to the chariots he set his course. The brightness of the sun's rays was greatly diminished. Darkness it was at the chariot he reached. The shortness of the day, Alelu pondered, its shortness him amazed. From the direction of the marshes, a cool lightness on the horizon was rising. A white-hued ball in the heavens was quickly rising. Kingu, the earth's companion, he now beheld. What in the accounts of the beginning, his eyes the truth could now see. The planets and their circuits, the hammer bracelet, Ki, the earth, Kingu, its moon, all created were. All by names were called. In his heart, Alelu knew once more truth a beholding needed. The gold that means of salvation to be found was needed. If truth be in the beginning tales, if by the waters the golden veins of Tiamat were washed, in the waters of Ki its cut off half, gold must be found. With hands unsteady, Alelu the tester from the chariot's pole dismantled. With trembling hands the fish suit he donned, the fast arriving daylight eagerly awaiting. At daybreak the chariot he exited, to the marshes he quickly stepped. Into deeper waters he waded, the tester into the waters he inserted. Its illuminated face he eagerly watched. In his chest his heart was pounding. The water's content was the tester indicated by symbols and numbers as finding disclosing. Then Alelu's heartbeat stopped. There is gold in the waters, the tester was telling. Unsteady on his legs, Alelu stepped forward. Deeper into the marshes he made his way. Again he, the tester, into the waters inserted. Again the tester, gold announced. A cry of triumph from Alelu's throat emanated. Nibiru's fate in his hands now was. Back to the chariot he made his way. The fish's suit off he took, the commander's seat he occupied. The tablets of destinies that know all circuits he enlivened to Nibiru's circuit to find the direction. The speaker of words he stirred up. Towards Nibiru the words to carry. Then to Nibiru words he uttered. Thus he was saying, the words of the great Alelu to An on Nibiru are directed. On another world I am. The gold of salvation I have found. The fate of Nibiru is in my hands.